Okay, bourbon subcategories. So I say that loosely because a bourbon is a bourbon or it's not. However, there are different categories that make more specific to where that bottle is. Okay, so we already know that bourbon has to be produced in the United States. It has to be aged in a new charred oak barrel, as well as it has to be at least 51% corn in the mash bill. It has to be distilled at a no greater than 160 proof and barreled at no greater than 125 proof. So that being said, these are some other categories that go alongside that. You have a you have a wheated bourbon. So that means that instead of having like a rye inside the mash bill, they'll have a more prevalent wheat in the mash bill alongside the 51% corn. Next, you have a single barrel. Single barrel means just that. So whatever's in this bottle came from one individual barrel. It wasn't blended and it wasn't a small batch. Then you have a cask strength. Cask strength is where it goes straight from the barrel at its proof and then put in the bottle. It's not proof down to anything else. Then you have an ultra aged bourbon. Bourbons do not age the same way that Scotch or other whiskeys do. It's a little harsher. The oak will really kind of take over it. So typically anything that's over like the 17, maybe 16 year will be considered ultra aged bourbon. Then you have a high rye. So high rye, now most bourbons will have some kind of rye in the mash bill, but this just means that it's going to have a much more prevalent. So it'd be like maybe 24%, maybe 30%. So a more prevalent rye inside of the mash bill alongside the 51% corn. Then you have a small batch. A small batch is when they take a few barrels and they add it into a blend and then they bottle it. So the small batch would be a few barrels added to one bottle. Then you have bottle and bond. I went over before what a bottle and bond is. So the rules with it, really brief, is it has to be aged for at least 4 years. It has to be in one single distillery inside a bonded warehouse, as well as it has to be created in a single distillation season. And everything has to be on the bottle. Everything that they do, the location of the distillery has to be indicated on the bottle. Oh, and it also has to be bottled at exactly 100 proof. Next, you have a straight bourbon whiskey or Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. When it says straight bourbon whiskey, it then has to have a minimum of 2 years for it to be aged. And finally, you have a finished bourbon. Now, technically, when it goes into another barrel, something else has happened to it. It's no longer a bourbon, unless it states a finished bourbon. So it's bourbon, then finished. So this one was finished in port. This port cask finished. Now, technically, when you get into other bottles like a toasted barrel or a double oaked, once it leaves the first barrel aging, the aging stops. And that's where it's a bourbon. Once it goes into something else, now it's no longer bourbon. It is a finished bourbon. Okay, hope that helps.